Seattle got blown out in Baltimore 37-3. They allowed 290 rushing yards. Okay? Keaton Mitchell went out there and balled out. Gus Edwards balled out.
They allowed Odell Beckham to catch a late garbage touchdown, which kept making the highlights, which was ridiculous.
Yeah. It was all about what that defense is doing.
Exactly.
Baltimore looks like a Super Bowl contender. I can't wait to talk to Baldy tomorrow because he was at that game at M&T Bank Stadium.
Yeah, he was on Westwood One.
Westwood One radio. So
Mitchell was running hard.
Keaton Mitchell ran hard. His father played for the Ravens in the early 2000s. Gus Edwards played hard. Lamar Jackson looks like an MVP candidate. Baltimore's a problem. We got to see them on Christmas night. That's not going to be an easy game. So Seattle took a step back. So are we concerned about the NFC West in Seattle? Because the Rams got blown out. They're done. The Cardinals are done. They're tanking. We don't even know if we're going to see Kyler Murray. What about Seattle?
So it's interesting because I had my eye on that game. I got Kenneth Walker and DK in fantasy, and they've been up and down. Specifically, DK has been up and down. Geno was bad yesterday, and they had no time to throw. That defense suffocated him. So I still think Seattle's a good team to be reckoned with. It was nice that they lost. I mean, I was absolutely rooting for that. But, it's very difficult when it comes to Baltimore and assessing teams that play them because Baltimore plays such a unique style of offense. They can suffocate a team and run away with it, and then it has no bearing on how I should view that team.
Right.
If that makes sense, right? Like, for example, Cleveland played that Baltimore team and looked terrible.
Right.
Terrible. And then Cleveland came out against the Niners and looked great. So it's a matchup thing.
Yeah, the Niners beat the Cowboys 42-10. Eagles survived, but it's a divisional game. It's
tough. So do I look at Seattle any different? Not really, but I look at Baltimore and I go, I don't know what to make of them for the playoffs. They remind me a lot of those Rockets teams from back in the day. Yeah, Baltimore does because they're a great regular season team, but I almost feel like I don't give them the benefit of the doubt because they've flamed out in the playoffs.
Well, they've got 2 Super Bowls, right, in their franchise history, and they built a bully. And that defensive line, we heard from Baldy last week, they hired a pass rush specialist. Mm-hmm. Now they lead the league in sacks. So if they continue to own the line of scrimmage, they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. They control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And they got Hamilton at safety. This other kid I didn't even hear about. He's got 6 interceptions for the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're built for the playoffs. It's that they're just flying under the radar. Everybody's talking about Kansas City. Everybody's talking about Miami. Everybody's talking about Cincinnati. Baltimore, in today's NFL, where you need to control the line of scrimmage and you need pressure and you need to control the run game and you need to run the football. And they've got weapons on the outside and they've got speed around Lamar and they've got a great tight end in Mark. Hell, they've got 2 good tight ends. Yeah, Isaiah Likely's good. You know, Mark Andrews is really good.
I mean, he's one of the top 5 guys in the league at that spot.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They're always in the playoffs. Hell, they made the playoffs last year with Huntley at quarterback, and they had nobody on that offense, and they still made the playoffs. Now, stock up on the Ravens. I'm buying all the Ravens stock. This team they look like a problem. They look like they're going to be a tough out in the AFC. Do not let them get home field advantage. Do not let them get home field advantage at all. They look better than Kansas City to me right now.
Well, Kansas City's defense looks really good, too. I mean, that's an explosive offense for Miami, and they haven't done much against the top-tier teams. Buffalo, even though they're not a top-tier team. Kansas City's defense is really good. I think they're really good.
Geno Stone is a safety. He's got 6 picks. Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, second-year player, playing all over the place. Yeah. Rock Ya-Sin from Temple. They've got some players, man.
Do you like that? Because I watched in that Cincinnati game last night, and I'm like, dude, Cincinnati looks as healthy and as cohesive as they've looked all year. And something's up with the Bills. The Raiders have 1 less win than the Bills. The Bills are in 9th place in the AFC. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. They're struggling a bit. They've had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the football.
A lot.
And that's caught up to them.
So back to the Seattle thing. I feel a lot better as a 49er fan seeing Seattle lose that way. But I do know that when we play them, it's going to be a lot closer. I still think we can get their number, but they are built and have been trying to build a team to face us. They're not worried about building their roster around beating the Ravens. They're trying to beat us. They have the 3 wide receivers, and I would say they've all been up and down this year. Geno hasn't been as good this year as he was last year. Their offensive line was injured at one point. Kenneth has been in and out of the lineup. Their defense, I still think, is really good. They've got old man Bobby Wagner still in the middle. doing things. But that young corner in Wooten and the kid that they drafted, number 4 overall, Witherspoon, I believe they're a better team than what they showcased yesterday. But it was a huge win for the Niners that they got their butt kicked the way they did.
Yeah, no, they got their butts kicked. Seattle did. Now the game was nip and tuck in the first quarter. They played some defense, but that Baltimore pass rush, man, just got to them. So maybe the Niners can take a blueprint from Baltimore. How do you pressure Seattle? Again, I've seen Cincinnati now, late in that football game against Geno Smith in Seattle. They got to Geno Smith over and over and over again. Baltimore got to Geno over and over and over again. That's where Chase Young and Nick Bosa need to step up. You get to Seattle and you get pressure, Geno will turn it over. He'll fumble in the pocket. He'll throw one up. But can you get pressure? That's been the problem with the 49ers. We can blame Steve Wilkes all we want to, but the players got to apply pressure.
I can't wait to see Chase Young and Bosa. I can't wait to see it. Because I thought when they acquired Randy Gregory would be out there much more than what we've seen. And I actually think he's been pretty good for the few, snaps that we've seen him. He's got a couple of sacks, and he's made plays. I'm really optimistic about this Chase Young thing. The more and more it's settled in, the more I feel like this is going to be a big trade for them.
Well, Nick Bosa stayed in the Bay Area this week. He stayed at the facility, which is a good thing. Maybe you could work on more pass rush moves and stop the experimenting and just get after the quarterback. He's not happy with 3 sacks. All right, he's got 3 sacks. All right, that's not good enough. It's not good enough. John Lynch, was this on with NBC? John Lynch with TK, the top one? John Lynch with TK about adding Chase Young? All right, here it is. Here's John Lynch adding Chase Young, but he believes it may not be enough to end the losing streak. Here's John Lynch.
I think what we know is this 3-game losing streak, whoever we added, that wasn't just going to be the difference. We've got to do a lot of things better to get back to that team that was playing in those first 5 weeks that most of the league felt like was a tough team to deal with. And we got to, Chase Young's a terrific football player. One we're really happy to add, but, if I promise you our guys don't think that's the magic pill, he's going to make, all the difference. We've got to start getting back to who we are as a football team. And I really do believe we will.
So Chase Young, we'll see about it. He's got 5 sacks. I look at the Philadelphia game to see 4 tackles and 1 sack, and that's in 9 quarters of football. I do believe Chase Young can help. He'll see a lot of single coverage, but I want to see it. And it's a great opportunity on Sunday against Jacksonville. All right? What better way to make your presence felt than against Trevor Lawrence? And last time Chase Young saw Trevor Lawrence got the best of him in Glendale, Arizona in the Fiesta Bowl. So you got a chance to make something happen here.
That was how many years ago?
I'm just saying, you got a chance to make a name for yourself right away against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I agree with. The Niners themselves need to get back to, their identity. And to me, their identity is running the ball down teams' throats, stopping the run, and getting after the quarterback. And if they do those things and they get back to the basics, I think they're going to get back on track. I think this is going to be a more difficult game than we're giving it credit for. But this is a winnable game. To me, this is a winnable game against Jacksonville. You've had time to recuperate. You've had time to incorporate a new player. You have opportunity to get Deebo Samuel back. Hopefully Trent Williams is back practicing this week. Let's get back to what we are known for. We hang our hat on physicality at the O-line and running the ball down teams' throats, and then we can work off the play action from there. And then on defense, stopping the run, getting after the quarterback. I think we've gotten really into the weeds with coverages and man versus zone and this. Just let's stop the run and make teams one-dimensional. And this offense needs to get back to 3, 4, 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, you heard from Crocker on Friday on this show. Stop with the zone stuff, the man stuff. They ran a lot of man. Make up your minds. Players got to make plays. Players have to make plays.
We all agree.
John Lynch also spoke about Steve Wilkes. And this is a very interesting answer from John Lynch.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I've always believed, I believed the same thing when I was a player. I played for great defensive coordinators, Monty Kiffin probably being at the top of that list. And, I've watched great coordinators here and Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans, but I think people forget that at some point during their tenure, there were struggles, and, I would say those guys probably had an advantage in that they were trained within this system. This is what they knew. That's why we got Robert initially. D'Amico came because of his reputation, but it was the first time linebacker coach, but he coached for 4 or 5 years under Saleh. So he knew this system inside and out. So that's what he fell back on.
More on Wilkes and his experience.
We knew it was going to be a challenge to replace D'Amico. D'Amico's a special person. He's a special coach, but we saw similar qualities in Steve. And I think probably the hardest thing is he's got so many years of experiences in different schemes. So when things start to struggle, what do you fall back on? And I think it's just finding what our identity is this year as a defense. Felt like it really probably Dallas was the greatest example of it all coming together. The rush and coverage was tied together, and we played the dominant style of defense that we're accustomed to playing. Cleveland, wasn't terrible. Minnesota was tough. We ran into a hot quarterback, and we didn't affect him enough. I think Cincinnati was the one where it just didn't look good.
And then he says he still believes in Wilkes. Last one here, Shasky.
I keep saying it. We have a ton of belief. There's a reason we picked Steve Wilkes. I think he's got what it takes. We obviously all have to show that. I know the players believe in Steve, and you can hear that, in a lot of their comments and just a lot of the way they feel, and that it's on them. It's incumbent upon them to play better so that everyone feels a little better. And
so, like, the Steve Wilkes has to go, fire Steve Wilkes crowd. You guys got to pump the brakes. USC just fired their defensive coordinator because they give up 50 every week, and they can't get a stop, all right? The Niners have gotten stops. Yeah, they've had a couple of bad weeks. The other teams get paid too. I don't love every single call. You're not going to be perfect all the time, but I feel like this whole thing, like, fire him and go get player X or whatever, former player X to run this defense, or elevate this guy. And come on, man. Like, this is one of the highest paid defenses in football. At what point are we going to ask the players to make plays and stop missing tackles and stuff the run and win one-on-one matchups? Right? Like, again, no one is saying that he's the greatest defensive mind who ever lived. He's not Belichick, but he's also not the worst ever. All right?
No doubt. How about, so much has been made about Steve Wilkes. To your point earlier about scapegoating, right? Already, Warrior fans, it's not everybody, but I see a lot of finger pointing towards Andrew Wiggins. And he hasn't played great to start. He hasn't played good to start. Let's give it time. Let's see what he does over the next 15 games. And then let's have a judgment on whether or not the Warriors need to do something about it. But the same thing with the 49ers. We found our scapegoat. And it's unfortunate that it has to be Steve Wilkes. Oh, well, he should be on the field, not call the plays. Well, Dan Quinn calls plays from the booth. Where ball deep, doesn't matter.
Did you watch the broadcast yesterday from Germany? Vic Fangio was exclusively shown with a small camera in the booth the entire time.
And they shut out Kansas City in the second half.
And Niner fans, we love Vic Fangio. Like, come on, what are we kidding?
Right.
Who are we kidding?
Right. So we're just going to avoid the Nick Bosa conversation about him not getting to the quarterback. And I don't care about pressures. Not right now. You need to finish those pressures.
Yes.
All right? Drake Jackson, are you still in Pittsburgh?
Well,
what happened? Did we leave you at the Pittsburgh airport? What happened to Drake Jackson? What? I mean, he's missing tackles. Hey, Hufanga, you want to keep your head up and rap?
Drake Jackson's been so good. They acquired not one but two defensive ends.
Yeah, exactly.
In season.
Exactly.
So he has not been good. No. And I also look at Javon Hargrave, like, he needs to bring it.
Javon Hargrave has not been good.
He needs to bring it.
Eric Armstead, I need more. So what about the offense? What about Brock Purdy? And what about Shanahan's play calling?
When I'm watching a guy like Josh Dobbs do it with 4 days, and he's just out there playing backyard football, it's like, come on, guys. With the talent we have, we should be able to score more.
And that's without Justin Jefferson.
Exactly.
All right? And they lost a running back in Cam Akers. Yes. All right? And they still figured out a way to win the game. So my whole thing is this. As we are firing Steve Wilkes and, hey, let's trade Deebo Samuel for Copper. We're doing all these things here during the 3-game losing streak. Well, to me, Deebo Samuel proved his value to the team the last 3 weeks by not playing. He proved how valuable he is to this team specifically. It's just like Draymond Green. Will Draymond Green have the same value on a different team? I don't know.
No, probably not.
But on the Golden State Warriors, we know who he is.
But we can't have it both ways because Deebo didn't play last year and they didn't miss a beat offensively.
They also play some bad teams.
Well, I mean,
they played the Commanders.
Is Minnesota any good?
They're 5-4.
I know. Well,
they're 5-4. Cleveland. What's Cleveland's record? Cleveland's pretty good.
Yeah,
got one of the best defenses in football. Cincinnati, are they pretty good? I think they are.
I mean, Cincinnati is on fire.
So, Mr. Debo against the Raiders and Mr. Debo against the Commanders is a lot different than Mr. Debo against the Bengals and the Vikings and the Browns.
Yeah, but you scored a ton of points in all those games, and you just didn't move the ball at all. I think it's the Trent absence to me, we could argue till we're blue in the face, but the Trent absence to me is a bigger one than Debo.
But you also prove my point. Those teams are bad. So without Debo, you could score against them all day long. You're going to be able to do what you want. Against the good teams, you need all your playmakers.
I don't
You need all your
Minnesota's
playmakers.
Defense is a world beater, but that's neither here nor there.
Cincinnati at home.
Cincinnati's good. Cincinnati's a good
Cleveland?
defense. Cleveland's very good defense.
Right. So you miss Debo. That's all I'm saying. You score 17, 17, 17. You miss Trent. There's no doubt you miss Trent Williams. No doubt. You haven't been able to run the ball without him. But you also, those explosives. They've been missing in action. And Debo's responsible for a lot of explosives. So as you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HG1 San Francisco, don't forget to download the Odyssey app and favorite 95.7 The Game for the best and most up-to-date sports coverage. Also search us on 95.7 The Game. Search us on YouTube. You'll find 95.7 The Game. By the way, YouTube and Twitch, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. We love you all. Comcast Business Text Line as well. Monster Monday brought to you by First 5 California. To learn 4 things you can do to overcome toxic stress, go to first5california.com. We need to see Debo and Trent. We need to see the defense get after the quarterback. But it does feel good that, okay, Seattle came back down to earth. Now we'll see Seattle in a couple weeks. But it is good to be tight. You're in a better spot than you were the last 2 years.
The NFC feels vulnerable outside of the Eagles, right? Like, I actually think Dallas is playing much better football right now than they were when they played the Niners. They either blow a team out or get blown out. Yesterday was their first, close game.
Right.
It was their first, real close game. But it's like Philly, and then you have a conversation. Detroit, Niners, Cowboys, all kind of in that same bucket. There's really nobody else that you fear.
Yeah.
I mean, there just isn't. You can throw Seattle in there if you want to put Seattle in there. I still feel like the Niners got Seattle's number. But I'm interested to see that game.
We'll see. Seattle was winning at the half, 17-16 in that playoff game. They were winning, and they were driving late in the third quarter to take a lead. And then Ebukam came in, forced a fumble. Nick Bosa recovers it, and the game is history. But that was a close game, and Seattle's closer to the 49ers than we all believe. They're coming, and they've got some personnel, Woolen, and you talked about Witherspoon, and they added Big Cat Williams and Frank Clark. Baltimore's a bad spot for them. They got smoked. But against the Niners, they probably match up a little bit better, so I wouldn't dismiss Seattle.